I don't know what's happening, but it's not really looking at your screen. It kind of talks like it is looking on your screen, but it's these type of things that are not trustworthy yet.
Oh, it's going to be another 20 years, is that they don't see how massively investment has scaled up.
And this is always a difficult topic because I think it was Carl Sagan who said, if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you do not understand quantum mechanics.
So this is very troublesome because there's so many people out there that go to these AI models now to get advice on what they should vote. A US general admitted openly that he used ChatGPT for making and informing himself on making decisions.
Welcome everybody to a new episode of the Innovation Network newsletter, where Aragorn and myself are going over all the technology news that is influencing how we live, how you work, and everything else. And we're looking forward to another episode. How's life, man?
Life is good. Life is good. Life is good. Yeah.
I just realized last episode we had a competition on Suno tracks. Did you get anything, or what? Do we have a new opening by now?
You're making an extremely good point, and you know what? I don't think I've received anything. This is hard to admit when we're live recording this, but I don't know who should be more ashamed, our listeners and our readers, or us. Yeah.
Well, luckily that is our tune. Our 50s tune is still very good, so we can go on with that for now.
We 100%. So if anybody watching this week, and if you're reading this newsletter, we're still waiting for you to make the coolest new theme song for the Innovation Network meetup in December. So go on Suno, go make us a song and send it to us. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
hello at innovation-network.nl.
Right. Hey, anything that stood out in the past weeks for you?
Well, I don't like to start on a negative note, but for those of you that are in the Netherlands and may have noticed or not, there was a Zembla documentary which was actually broadcast this weekend, and it is about online chat groups. In fact, about sadistical online chat groups where young people are pulled in, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. Now, I don't want to really go into the depths of it. I highly recommend you to watch a documentary on Zembla. The guy, one of the Dutch guys who was really involved with it, has been arrested.
Can I ask you one question about it, Aragorn?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Do people join that knowing up front it is a sadistic group, or do you, after the fact, find out it is a sadistic group? What's going on here?
So what I understood from it is that people join it because they're looking. They start looking for some content online that is, maybe not safe for work. And then I'm talking about violence, not safe for work, not sexual, not safe for work. And they eventually end up in these WhatsApp chat groups. And there it just goes to a whole new level. And ultimately people are, for example, young people are enticed to live stream and video what they do. So they attack people in the street, or they kill a dog by stomping on its head and making its eyes pop out. Really gruesome, really sick stuff. Like the police who were investigating this said, man, we were traumatized just watching this material. And then there are some people in these groups that they kind of incentivize it, they drive it, they get people to do it. But then ultimately when they have the material, they also use it to blackmail them, to take advantage. And it's really sick. The thing is that...
Luckily, I did not see that. Okay, so what's your point with it?
It's quite horrible.
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up is because I believe that now this is on television and everybody goes like, oh, we need to act. We need to ban social media. We need to do all kinds of stuff, right? But the problem is here that now what people are doing is they're doing a knee-jerk reaction. The problem is that 20 years ago, when social media started to rise, we didn't give it the proper appreciation. We didn't make sure that we quickly put in place the right kind of policies, the right kind of legislation, the right kind of etiquette, hygiene. We didn't include it in education the right way. We didn't teach our children that social media is basically a digital aspect of public life. And we didn't teach them how to make sure that they're safe there. And as a result, we basically still have half of society taking place in a space that is like the Wild West 150 years ago. And now the same thing is happening with AI, right? We're making the same mistake again. Our politicians are praising themselves for finally having digitale geletterdheid, digital legislation policy on digital skills in education. But it's 20 years too late. If the same kind of thing is going to happen with AI, we're going to have a massive problem. It cannot take this long. We need something in the next 2 years. And it needs to be something that's up to date. Because even the current AI Act is already out of touch with reality and out of date.
Yeah. So it's an interesting point that you bring up, because we've discussed this morning a couple of topics that we're going to discuss. One of them is the rise of social AI platforms. It's interesting, right? I assume that this group is featuring real videos of real sadistic stuff. Well, I consider it to be a good point if that is not real sadistic stuff, but AI-generated sadistic stuff. That is, at least you're not harming a dog or anything else in the street with it.
Well, look at it.
Yeah, but let's tackle the one once we get there. Yeah. So, do you have any suggestions on how, is there anything that you think the government should do or anybody should do to get there? Yeah.
Well, this week I had a meeting. I had a meeting with Hester Brom. She's actually what do you call this in English? A candidate for D66, which is a left-wing Democratic Party in the Netherlands. And she wants focus to shift more to these kind of topics, because she says that main discourse politics is all about things that are completely unrelated. And people think that they are important. And I'm not even going to mention any topics, but people think that they're really important, but they're really completely missing things that are actually impacting the life of our children right now, right here. And they're not paying attention to that. And so I think what should be done is that more people should be made aware of this. So this is really something where our listeners and our readers themselves can play an important role. Bring it up with whomever you talk to. Like, ask them, like, is there any, if you are in touch with any kind of people that are in politics or in making policy, ask them why they're not spending time on this more, rather than all kinds of things that impact life here.
And it starts indeed with awareness, and there are so many levels to awareness. And if you look to, so obviously we have the Dutch elections coming up, and if you look to all the tools that allow you to get some support on the voting, there is little to almost nothing about technology and AI in there, and not even a point about education in there to consider your vote on, right? Everybody knows that, for instance, the person that you spoke to, the party D66, is about education, other parties as well, but you have to kind of deal with that. That's the only thing you can go on, which is weird, right? Yeah,
and then even from them, I hear that basically she's the only one of them that is focusing on this kind of the tech side of things. And it's just so worrisome, because we recently did a poll in our group, which is our inner circle of friends. And, and I asked them, what do you think that is the political leaning of the different AI models, right? Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok. And even though all of us are basically using these AI models every day, the majority of a very small sample size, I admit, but the majority of the group thought that, okay, ChatGPT is probably pretty much center, Claude might be left-wing, and then Grok is right-wing. But the reality, and I can share the research here, I'll have added to the notes, but the reality is that every single AI model out there is left-leaning. Even Grok is left of the center, and ChatGPT and Claude are extremely left-wing, and Gemini is in between Grok and these other models, which means that anybody, and the Algemeen Dagblad, which is a big Dutch newspaper, they called me about this, and this is why I did this research, or looked for research on this matter, because I didn't do the research myself. They asked me, because they were doing research for the upcoming Dutch elections, on why ChatGPT basically always gives the answer GroenLinks, which is the most Partij van de Arbeid, which is our biggest left-wing party, or D66, which is the other left-wing party. And they did this multiple times with new profiles on browsers with no cookies, no cache, no login, incognito, and they always got left-wing parties as an answer if they ask, what should I vote? So this is very troublesome, because there's so many people out there that go to these AI models now to get advice on what they should vote, right?
Yeah, so I don't want to go too deep in that. I need to do my research a little bit on that. But who determines the X, what is left, what is center, and what is right? You have this meme floating around, and I'm sure that you've seen it as well, that the left has been moving a little bit more to the left, and then you see this consumer or the citizen who didn't change his mind, but all of a sudden is a right-wing person because that scale is moving. So how do you determine this is my first question, based on that survey that you're doing. What is left and what do people consider right? I keep on struggling with these concepts and how people apply these. Well,
I think that's a very good question, and definitely one worth considering for everybody. It may be not exactly a topic for our podcast right here, right now. We've already drifted very far into territory that,
as we always do, buddy.
As we always do. But it's an incredibly important question we should all be asking ourselves right now.
Right, absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah. So what I did in the past week is I worked with some people from the Innovation Network on plans for a Vibe Coding Masterclass. And what's interesting, I spoke to quite a few people about this concept of vibe coding. And I also remember that I was in the radio show of Martijn Vink and we talked about vibe coding. And his co-host was this young guy. What are you talking about? What is vibe coding? So many people don't know it. All the developers know what it is and are using it. It is basically the ability to talk in natural language to your screen and you get an app, right? Everybody knows how to use ChatGPT. You can make an image, you can make a video, you can make music, we can do all that. But the same goes for creating an app, right? Writing your code. And the fun thing is, I cannot code at all. I don't understand it. But with these tools, you can make such cool things. But there are levels to this game. If I've something created and want to deploy it, it's going to be difficult because getting it secure, deploying it in the right way, then you basically have to get some basic understanding of coding and service and all these kind of things. And I see so much demand that we're now kind of doing a research project to find out where we can help businesses and individuals on doing more with vibe coding. And so we're going to dive and hopefully talk a little bit more about it on the website, in our newsletter and here. So
I can't wait. I can't wait. Look, I have such an incredible anecdote. Like yesterday, this Saturday, one of my oldest friend, who is a coder, works in this industry. And I know that for a while he's been using AI to do a lot of the coding work that he does as a professional. But he didn't use Claude until recently. He didn't even know about ChatGPT Codex. I had to make him aware. I'm kind of when it comes to being on top of the new developments, I'm the one who tells him. But he does it anyway. But he told me he has this project where he's been doing all of this vibe coding. So not by voice, but basically typing and telling, mainly Copilot, I guess. Yeah. And now ChatGPT Codex, what he wants. But he doesn't tell his colleagues. So he's been saying internally we should do more with AI, but he's not open to his colleagues about how much he uses it and for what. And this is such an interesting thing because I think that there's a massive amount of developers out there who are still basically lying or at least not being open about how much they're using AI. And this is not good. I don't approve of this at all. But what happened is basically he submitted a project. Everything was working. But then one of his colleagues came back and said, why did you do this? And he was like, no. That's a really good question. Yeah. And he was like, because he didn't know why he did it. Because when he looked at it, he was like, why did I submit this code? And the thing is, I don't want to make a point here to say, okay, yeah, AI is not useful. And I don't want to give in to the dev skeptics who say AI makes mistakes. The problem here isn't that AI did something weird. The problem isn't even that he didn't check it, which he should have probably done. Yeah. The problem is that because he's not open about it, even in the moment itself, he couldn't admit that. He couldn't say, oh yeah, I vibe coded this. And so we should be more aware of this as an organization, as a team, because yes, it's saving a lot of time, but we also need to keep this in mind. So the more devs do this kind of secret stuff, trying to save time so they can, spend more time on games or whatever, that's what the real danger is.
Yeah, but I also see a curve that people start using it, are amazed by the level of magic that comes out of that, partly replacing their own role, cannibalizing on their work, and you might not feel too comfortable saying that you're basically getting more useless and the AI is about to replace. We've seen the same thing with projects, right? Why would you need a McKinsey consultant writing you out a PowerPoint of your strategy for the next coming 3 years? You can ask ChatGPT that, and probably that consultant did that as well. And now we are past that period of shame. Now everybody is saying, oh, I use ChatGPT. Yeah. But the first year, we definitely had the same kind of thing that people were not truthfully telling about what they have used AI for. And now you see it more and more. I see on your notes as well on LinkedIn, you have a description saying this news is polished by AI. More people are using that, just being open about it. And nobody, oh, well, that's just the new standard, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I think that this went mostly unnoticed here in Europe, right? But like a month ago, I spoke at Deloitte stakeholder meeting, which was a bunch of board members of big Dutch companies coming in to hear about what was going on with AI. And I asked the Deloitte people there, including the ones that invited me, I said, so you guys are probably not very happy about what happened in Australia. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, Deloitte Australia has to pay 400 million fine because they used AI in their analysis and advice and it went wrong. And they were like, oh, Is that so? Well, it's more like a franchise anyway. So, but the thing is that, of course, I'm always a bit afraid of the negative impact that these kind of things have, but it does show, right? Because I think that something like this happening with Deloitte in Australia, where they do this government kind of advice project, and then they happen to use a shit ton of AI, and that went sideways, and now they need to pay a massive reimbursement or fine or whatever.
Yeah.
But the reason for that is that they weren't open about it, right? They're trying to get the benefits without taking the accountability, and that's where things
transparency go wrong. Is always good, right? I'm a true believer in that, and now with AI, transparency to what, as far as we can get to the line of reasoning, transparency if it's used AI, where AI is used, researchers, it's all good. Yeah, even when we don't have an organization with AI, transparency on what is the objectives and who's doing what in the organization is always a good idea. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, let's pivot to some other topics, Aragorn. If we look back in the past 2 weeks, I think the most dominant news was this AI browser wars, right? So we had, I was using a browser for quite some time already from GenSpark. Then Comet came from Perplexity, and then Atlas quickly came. What, am I forgetting anyone? No, that's it, right?
No, that's. I think we get Comet, we get Atlas, we get GenSpark. I think those are the most important ones. Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. We didn't discuss this prior, but I was thinking it's also kind of interesting, right? Because we've seen this whole period where everything was about apps, getting your own app, getting your target audience to get your app. Right, that was a whole thing. Yeah. Everybody was trying to get out of the browser into the app, right? And then the only real war between browsers was basically between Safari for all the the growing market share of MacBook and Apple users, and then versus Chrome. Really, right?
Exactly.
And now,
which is a platform war, basically.
Yeah, a platform
more
war.
Than a browser war, even. Yeah.
And now suddenly there's this AI browser war. And the funny thing is that the majority of these AI browsers are based on Chrome.
Yeah.
So basically, they're all Chromium, which also is the reason, I guess. Well, not because it's Chrome, but they're building on Chrome, and there's all these security issues, which Google, of course, is pretty much on top of with their own Chrome browser. But in Chromium, when you're basically building on something that you need to get the security browsers from them, and then you need to roll them out, and then you're implementing some completely new tech, which it wasn't maybe built for in the first place, and that's opening up all kinds of Pandora's boxes. I don't know about you, but I've been loving using an AI browser. I've been using Comet. You've been using the GenSpark one, but I'm really worried about the security issues it brings because
definitely. Yeah. And if I look to all the critics, there are even people in our group that have said to their teams, we are not going to use this because it's not safe. And there's a couple of levels in safety, of course. If you install a browser like this, the first thing that it asks, do you want me to import the bookmarks like any other browser does? But also, do you want me to import all your passwords? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to import all my passwords immediately so you can all read it and have that disposal, know where that is and landing. And I also heard about a case that if it's reading websites, you could get a secret prompt injection that the AI is reading and is then taking into consideration and doing all stuff on the background. And these type of stories do not make me too comfortable in using it for that particular case. I have specific use cases where I use it for, but not with full access at the moment.
Yeah, and it's even worse than that because, and by the way, this is also an advice to anybody listening to this who hasn't already done this, and I know that this is probably the majority of people. I recently tried to get my family to start using a password manager. I use Bitwarden. I highly recommend it. You can use any one you want. We're not being paid for this. I wish we were. Do not, under any circumstances, use the password manager in Chrome for the Google integrated one or the Microsoft integrated one. You don't want to do that. You don't want to put all of your passports in the same place as the browser, etc. It just opens you up to a kind of that danger. But that's a problem with the AI browser as well, because even though I use Bitwarden, if this AI browser gets injected, then it might even start, I don't know, in the wrong moment, start logging passwords that I actually got from Bitwarden, but then paste it into the login, and then it'll take those. So it opens me up to kind of security risk that I really don't want to, that I've been trying to protect myself from by using these password managers. So
yeah. So there are a couple of interesting use cases that do work, right? So I've checked all these different browsers for it. So a good use case is scraping LinkedIn. So if you have a repetitive task, if, for instance,
is illegal, by the way.
But sending 10 messages to 10 people that you want to follow up. I recently had a dinner and I got a list of attendees, and most of the people we wanted to exchange contact information. I'll reach out on LinkedIn. I usually do that. And I just could say to the browser, I made a picture of it. These are the people, sent them a nice welcome message and connect me. And you see it actually happening on the screen. And that's also the selling point, right, of these browsers. So you can give them an assignment and you can follow along. It's nice that you can follow along. I don't want to follow along. I want to be able to trust the system, give them a prompt, and 2 seconds later it's just done, rather than looking 2 minutes to my screen if he does it right, or the system does it right. That's not...
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing that I've been really loving about Comment. So I have Perplexity Pro. Or Max. So this is a $200 a month thing. And I have Perplexity's assistant mode in this. And so through APIs, I've connected it to my email, but I also use the Comet browser because that really puts it to work and in effect.
Yeah.
And one of the things it does, for example, is that when I get an email that is a personal request to me, like, for example, Renee from Speakers Academy emailed me, let's schedule a meeting so we can talk about your strategy for next year. And then what Perplexity's Comet browser automatically does is it puts that email into a draft mode, and then it writes me a draft. It checks my calendar. When am I available? It checks my previous emails. What did we discuss before? What does it know about me and how I would respond to this? And then it answers that email. And it doesn't send the email, but it puts the draft ready in my email. And I had to get used to this, right? Because initially, of course, you don't trust it. And I have spotted some instances where, for example, it said, because, for example, it proposed to him that I could meet him this Friday, and the times did match my calendar. But because in my calendar, I didn't account for travel time, it doesn't add up. So the only thing that I learned from it is that as long as I keep my calendar up to date and I include the travel times, it will actually be capable of setting these kind of meetings, and I don't even need to double check it. And this is something that all of us will need to get used to because it demands we need to develop that trust. But these drafts, I'm starting to more and more lean into them, and it saves me time, and I see exactly what emails need to be answered because it says, hey, there's a draft here in my email. Oh, I need to answer this email, and then it's already ready to go, and I basically only have to send.
Yeah, and you say something very important here. I think we're just seeing this first iteration of browsers. So we see what they're doing. They have to kind of get tested, get user feedback, and over time it will be the better assistant, because I do like the fact that I am working in a browser and I have ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever I want integrated in my browser, so I don't have to make a screenshot of something, send it over to ChatGPT and ask comment and then paste something back. Yeah. This integration is a step forward. And also, while I was listening to you, I was also realizing that I have problems with OpenAI scanning everything that I do on a browser, but Google has all the information already. Yeah. So what are we talking about, right? It's
Yeah. Another use case that I loved, I saw online. I think I saw this on IGN or somewhere, but it was another website. Somebody said, "Oh, I'm only watching YouTube now with my AI browser." So they watch YouTube, they watch videos, and while they're watching the video in the browser, they ask AI to follow along and then ask it questions and interact with it. So they kind of start having a conversation with the video while they're watching it, that kind of stuff. These are the kind of early steps that give that example of the real idea behind Web3, right? The contextual internet that is intelligent, that engages with you on the content that you're watching, providing you with intelligent kind of back and forth to make sense of the things you're doing, learn faster. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that the GenSpark browser is doing that pretty nicely.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up a bunch of stuff live, but then I realized that that would also open up my email and everything that's in there to people to see. And I was like, nah, maybe that isn't so smart. Talking about security.
So this is, for instance, the browser of GenSpark. They all work a little bit the same, right? So here I have a YouTube video and I can just ask GenSpark anything about the video. So while this is the use case that you just talked about, right? While I'm watching the video, I can say, summarize this video content for me. And for instance, give me quick links to where I want to go. If a good content team is behind a certain video, you usually have, the chapter points where you can skip to, but this can automatically generate that for you so you can skip to that. You can create an audio version in an iPod version or slides on it right away. You see here immediately the quick things, like here, timestamp navigation, exactly what you say. And I can also chat with the system about, so I want to know more about it, or do maybe fact checking on a video, etc. on the sidebar. Works like for these type of cases. And I'm not even logged in here.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And for me also, I think that this is just great because honestly, the way I used to do it is that for 90% of stuff, I would go to a website, read something, then literally copy paste stuff into Perplexity or, whatever AI I'm using, then get an answer and then go back. So for flow, it's just not cool. And being able to kind of have all of that in one place and one window just makes it so much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, maybe I can do quickly, and then people will get an idea of what I actually watch on YouTube, which is going to be funny. So keep in mind, this is my private YouTube account, right? So don't judge me on the algorithm. But so here you see my browser. Basically here in the top right, you see the commit functionality. So you have open background assistance, which is basically all assistants that are running tasks for me that I have automated, which right now I don't have a lot in here, but I have it do automatic searches every week and automatic queries that it then sends me an email about. Then you have assistant itself, which you get the full assistant experience only with the really expensive Perplexity. But basically here you see the same that you had. Summarize this video, extract key takeaways, scroll to it. That's automatically ready to go. I can ask anything. Then there's a button here, screenshot, which will automatically screenshot the browser window and then I can interact with it. But it also has voice mode here. But also if I turn off assistant, I also have a voice mode button here. So I can go like that.
Try the voice mode button and ask something about your screen.
Hey, what am I looking at here?
You're on YouTube's premium homepage. It features sections like live streaming channels, podcasts, playlists, and more.
So if I want to find my watch later, because I can never find it, where would I go to find my watch later list?
On YouTube, you can find your watch later list in the left-hand menu. Look for the library section, and there you'll see watch later. Just click it to view your saved videos.
All right. Okay, so now everybody can see what crazy stuff I'm into. What is the bottom video about?
The bottom video is titled Star Citizen 4.3.2 Live New Patch Anti-Meta Mole Loadout Guide. It offers a guide for the new patch, focusing on mining, selling, and an anti-meta mole loadout strategy.
I don't know where she found this video because it's not in the screen. So this is a great example of AI hallucinating.
Well, that was exactly the reason why I asked you to do it. I've been playing with it. And for some reason, the voice assistant, I don't know what's happening, but it's not really looking at your screen. It kind of talks like it is looking on your screen, but sometimes it goes wrong and then you say, look at my screen, and then they have it right. So I don't know what's happening there. But there's these type of things that are not trustworthy yet.
Yeah.
Those features, by the way, where you hover over now are interesting as well. So if you're in a large PDF, click on that, immediately a summary of it too. That is also pretty nice.
Yeah, I think that's okay. This is the automatic summary page, but I think that some of this also has to do with it doesn't actually always look live. It basically takes a snapshot every few seconds or a minute, and sometimes it's just a little delayed. I think that also has to do with it. But look, I'm not using it all the time yet, but I definitely like it. I was actually, and this comes on the back of this, I was looking into Microsoft's recall functionality and Microsoft's AI functionality in Windows, right? Because they're basically working to offer this across your entire Windows platform. So not Apple, of course, but it's not available on my PC. And the reason for that is that Microsoft only offers this. And by the way, I'm not a huge fan of Copilot, but I do look forward to it, but they only offer it on Copilot Plus PCs. And Copilot Plus PCs basically are defined by having an MPU chip, which is you have CPU, GPU, and then NPUs for AI, the new kind of hardware technology they're building. And it needs to be able to do 400 teraflops, I'm saying off the top of my head, or 40 teraflops. Anyway, if it's not capable of doing that, they will not offer Copilot Plus functionality because it needs that kind of chip to be able to really quickly do that. And so this is, even though I have a beast of a computer, I can't use it. There are some workarounds, but it doesn't really work very well. So this is something that's also interestingly tied to the platform. Although technically it could be used just through software. I have a 5090, so I should be capable of doing it with that. But Microsoft has basically done the Apple thing there and said, well, we're just not going to make that available to people unless they buy our new Copilot Plus certified PCs that have the NPUs that we want.
Right. Two things that come to mind while you're telling that story is the Edge is also now AI enabled. So we named the big ones, but Edge also rushed in 3 days after Atlas with a release. But come to think of it, if you can run your large language model locally, like Apple is trying to do, and I'm sure in the future when the phones are capable of running that, we see more of that. That will also make a browser with AI on the browser more trustworthy, because maybe the content then stays on your local phone rather than going to the cloud.
Yeah. Well, we haven't covered this yet, or did we? Did we recently cover the super small models that are not coming out?
We've talked about it, and I've read some online as well. The models are already here, so indeed, and they can run on a phone, so that's coming.
Yeah, so a recent breakthrough is where they basically used tenuary technology. We use a binary for everything, but they we can't go into it too deep. But basically they made new models where they use kind of a tenuary logic. And these are like orders of magnitude smaller than the models we have. But on reasoning, they perform significantly better. And they actually do reasoning that's far closer to human reasoning, so real reasoning, than what models have been doing so far. And this is such an incredible progress and breakthrough again, which will significantly reduce model size in the future. Exactly. So that's super exciting. We should cover that in the next one. Anyway.
Hey, let's jump to the next topic. I see 2 cool links from you on LinkedIn about robotics and price deflation. Maybe you can put 1 or 2 on the screen and talk to it what you find so interesting about it.
So first of all, obviously, we never miss an opportunity to kind of spotlight one of our esteemed ambassador members. And although the focus has been very often on our Dutch members lately, this is Colin Fitzpatrick, hails from Dubai, or at least that's where he lives and works. We have a long-standing relationship because we worked together at Oracle, 15 years ago or something. But Colin is also really into AI and robotics, and he made this amazing post about a new robot which only costs $1,400. So this is a Notix Boomi Housebot, was released to make home help easily available for all. Now, just to point out, this is not a robot that is instantly going to revolutionize your home chores, right? It's not, as you can see, it's hands. It doesn't have fingers. There's a lot of stuff it can't do. It's more of a gimmick than it is a real technical solution.
Well, even if it's a gimmick, it's $1,400, which is half the price tag of the Sony robot dog, right? So
now, exactly, and that's really the point I wanted to make with this, is that, as you can see, it's already capable of doing really impressive stuff. It's pretty cheap. And this is just a signal, right? Because that's what we're about here. It's signal to noise. And I highly recommend you reading this post, and we'll share it probably. But there are multiple signals that are really showing that the prices required for building these robots are going down really rapidly. And of course, in our group, we also have some skeptics. We have Herbert, who is really deep into robotics and in technical sense of things, far more of an expert than the both of us. But I think that what they really are missing out on sometimes when they say, oh, it's going to be another 20 years, is that they don't see how massively investment has scaled up, how massively interest has scaled up, which means that it's top of mind. So people in other industries that are working on other projects come up with solutions. They tell their friend, and then their friend is, whoa, we could also use this in robotics. And all this kind of is happening on a scale that is, again, doing what technology always does. And that's that as these technologies become more popular, more widespread, the deflationary power kicks in on a massive scale. And so the deflation of the price for robots versus the capabilities that they have are both, on a, well, I want to say exponential scale. I don't know 100% for sure, but they're definitely accelerating.
Yeah, it's also not only the cost of it, but also the access to that, right? Currently, robots are things for factories where they build cars and stuff like that, right? Nobody's thinking of a really useful robot at home to do stuff, but soon we will have that access, right? In that article was also a link to an overview page.
So this is Murphy, and they have been releasing these visuals that probably everybody that follows us has been quite familiar with, because I showed in my keynote, you do. Yeah. But we had an old one. So this is the 2025 one, and this is the new one, the 2025 one. Actually, if you scroll all the way down on this website, here's the old one, I think. Is this the old one? This is Humanoids 2023. So here there was like 12, relatively big companies working on humanoid robots that were promising. But the latest update that they did, now it's, all of these are very interesting, by the way, but this is the latest one. And so now we have, these are just the biggest companies working on robotics. I think the total, I can't see it here. but it's massive. So this is another example of how so many companies are now into this. Right, so much money is flowing into it. So much expertise is flowing into it. So many people are putting their minds to these problems, trying to solve, the hands and all of that.
Yeah, and I love this space. I'm very enthusiastic about it, and I'm really wondering, when can we get our hands on our own robot here? I want a figure, or I want an Optimus. And just to put it in comparison, we also both have done so much trouble to get a Meta display glasses, and look at how far we are. Nothing. We just had Dreamforce. A lot of people that I know tried to get me. I already have 5-6 people try to get me these glasses. Yeah. So that's how difficult you get just a simple glass here, let alone a robot. So let's see when we actually have the robot here standing. But hopefully we have something next year. That would be nice.
Yeah, I have one interesting nugget to share here. I don't know if anybody's been following Elon Musk's negotiations about his compensation package at Tesla, but it's a 1 trillion compensation package. Yes.
And that's tied completely to this.
Completely to this, because he recently made a very interesting statement. He said that he doesn't care about the money. He cares about control. And then he corrected himself because the word control has some negative connotations and he didn't want that. But he said, like, look, if I am going to build an army of Tesla Optimus robots, I want to be sure that I'm the one that's in control. That's what he said. And then people said, oh, you're going to control the army. So he said, well, I want to be the one that has a significant amount of influence. And the reason, whether you trust Elon Musk or not, right? That's not what I want to talk about. The reason is that he believes that somebody that he believes is morally trustworthy, which he thinks he himself is, and I don't blame him. I also only trust myself, should be the one to hold the reins on something that is so profound, so impactful, and has such a potential to also go significantly wrong, despite its upside. And I think that's so interesting, and it just shows how important this development is as well when it comes to AI.
Yeah, he believes that this is going to be the most important product of the future, more important than electric cars. And if you look at his plans, what he wants to do on Mars, I think that once we hit Mars, there will be more Optimus robots on Mars than there will be humans building the entire civilization there. So there's a far-fetching or far ahead-looking point in his whole rationale.
It's interesting. You think of Interstellar as a movie, and they have TARS, and TARS is just kind of this block. And it's already such an important part of what they're doing. And then just think about if these were humanoid robots like Data in Star Trek, with those kind of capabilities. It's crazy. And this is where we're headed. Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about some other race about AI socials that is going on, Aragorn. And it's an interesting one because we have to follow along in an indirect way. Sora has been released, which we talked about last time, right? It's a social media platform only for AI-generated content released by OpenAI. Quickly then, Snapchat follows. Snapchat, you could already create filters, but not AI-driven. Now if they release that, so you can just type, I want to look like an alien, and you automatically get that filter, which is disrupting the whole filter creating industry as well. But hey, that was to be expected. Then Meta quickly came with Vibes, and all these tools are only available in the US. And the adoption, well, I should say the download goes pretty rapidly because more Sora has been downloaded in the first 2 weeks than OpenAI had with the release of the OpenAI app. So that is spectacular. I don't know if people are actually using it or just trying it out. That's not, those numbers are not clear, but it looks like a success. It's interesting that this is all unfolding without us seeing it here in Europe.
Yeah, we're basically effectively blocked out.
Completely
I've
blocked
been
out.
trying everything. I even got an American eSIM on my iPhone because although I hate iPhones, I thought, well, Sora app is made for iPhone. If I get an eSIM from the US, maybe that way I can get access. But no cigar, or what do you call it? No luck anyway.
Yeah. And you made this point last week. I don't know where you said something like that, but I understand the European legislation to the extent that we want to protect some things from this type of AI creation. But if you do not test with it and try out what works or doesn't work, it's very difficult to kind of make policies in the first place, right? So we can, of course, view what happens in the US and what happens in China. Yeah. But again, it's a little bit behind. I don't want to go more repeat here, but yeah.
No, but I mean, you're making such a good point. And it's so crazy if you think about it. Like the EU, yes, has approved still glyphosate, which is a proven pesticide which causes cancer for the next 10 years because they say that it's not 100% sure it causes cancers. So, but they approve that. But then when it comes to AI, products that haven't even hit our market, nobody's used them. They've already banned them because of they think that there are risks for things. Yeah. I mean, it's such a different kind of approach.
That was the point that you made last week. Indeed, that was the point that you made last week. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's fascinating.
And that's just not a good thing.
And there's also a big business opportunity in there, right? So I did some searching about it. And if you look to the amount of commercials that are already AI generated, that is huge, right? So 2 or 3 years ago, Heinz, with the Heinz ketchup, had this very successful campaign where they took images from ChatGPT. Everybody was using the word ketchup, automatically got a Heinz bottle. And then they said, well, Heinz and ketchup are synonymous with each other. Great campaign, great success. And now you see all these campaigns. Nike did that with generative AI, but now everybody has it in their hands. So if the entire population of China or the US is savvy with it, and you have all these content generations and can make a fluidity between a product and creative content, and we are lagging behind that has a ripple effect in businesses as well.
Imagine what it's doing to our marketing, right? Because on the one hand, people say, well, people are losing their jobs because we're losing AI. But now imagine that you work as a creative artist in Europe, right? So not only, basically what's going to happen, even if we don't have AI here, the following is going to happen. Let's say that you're Heinz tomato ketchup. You can either make an ad in Europe where you need to spend $1 million on it because you need to do it the old-fashioned way, or you can develop an app by hiring professionals in the US or China, whatever, that are allowed to use AI that can actually do that legally in their country and then make something for a fraction of the cost. What are you going to do? You're going to fire all the European creatives and the marketing department and everything, right? Because why would you keep them? You'll just keep 2 people that understand kind of cultural specifics. Oh, because it's for the Italian market. Okay, so we need an Italian advisor. But you'll have the US team make it. Why? Because your European company, department, division, whatever, isn't even allowed to use these tools. What is the EU thinking is going to happen here, right? This is game theory. This is game theory at work right there.
Yes, so learning is important, and maybe that's also a nice segue to the next topic, because you made I see a LinkedIn post here. Are we done with it?
Before, yes. And this can be used in a segue, but we did some pre-research. We were discussing this before the recording, and we looked and I said to you, well, we're looking at the US, we're looking at what's going on with AI apps over there, but why don't we look at China? And then we found...
Right.
Because this was even in our blind spot. Then we found that in China, the AI app market is actually massive, but they're going about it much differently. So instead of having separate apps from every AI company, they're basically integrating AI capabilities in their existing apps. So Bao, I hope I pronounced that correctly, I'm probably slaughtering it, which is basically their TikTok, has already massive AI integration over there. But not in our TikTok because it's not allowed over here. And just the Chinese AI social media market is estimated to be $20 billion by 2032. And this was the statistic that most blew our minds when we were prepping this. In China, 60% of Chinese internet users are actively following virtual, in other words, AI-generated idols.
Yeah, 60%.
Yeah. So about education.
Yeah, that's super fast. About education, let's move on to that. Yeah. So you got a nice LinkedIn post. Maybe you should show it again, which was for new ways of learning.
Alex Banks, the future of education. So he was talking about Synthesis 2.0, the world's first AI-powered math tutor. And so we're seeing a lot of this kind of stuff happening. We've also seen some research with it that has shown that students who are learning with AI tutors perform significantly better, right? I think even last year, we already did an episode where I mentioned that in Nigeria and at a university in the US or in Texas, a school in Texas, they did AI augmented education and the students were performing significantly higher. But this is basically going really rapid. And just going back to what we just discussed in China, so Taobao or the Chinese TikTok, they are forced by the Chinese government to limit children to only be allowed to watch like half an hour. I don't know. This is arbitrary. I don't know the exact number, but a limited amount of time watching normal social media every day. And then after that, they only get educational content.
Yeah.
And so on Daobao, there's lots of channels, lots of TikTok influencers, which are actually virtual idols, virtual AI generated educational kind of entities. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
So this is already massive over there. Right? This is, and if you think about it, like back in the 60s and 70s, you know, in television, which was the big thing then, they were thinking about how can we use it for education? And initially people thought, oh, we can never use it for education. And then they created Sesame Street, which was a massive success. And after that, they created Blue's Clues, which we didn't see much in Europe, but was a massive success educational-wise in the US. And now we're seeing the same development, but this time we're seeing it on social media through AI.
Yeah, and there's another dynamic as well in the tools and the possibility with these tools. So you there have a tool called, what's the name of tool? Synthesis, I think.
It is.
And you see that you can take some content and make it very specific for different types of kids with the way that they want to consume the data. Roll the video. I think this is an important thing to show.
Welcome to Synthesis. I'm the tutor. What's your name?
Theo.
Theo. Am I saying it right? And how about my spelling?
Amazing.
Excellent. Theo, we are going to learn math like you've never learned it before. No textbooks, no worksheets, no homework. What do you say?
I hate homework, so yeah, I'm gonna love this.
Welcome back, Sam. You're on fire with that 3-day streak. I noticed it's been about 3 weeks since we worked on multiplication flashcards. Might be a good time for a quick review.
I like this.
Or if you're feeling adventurous, we could jump into Factor Extractor, which you just unlocked.
I want to try something new like Factor.
Factor Extractor? Great choice. Have you learned about square numbers before?
Yeah, I know quite a bit about square numbers.
That's great. Do you want to show me what you already know?
Okay.
Let's do it. Great work, Lily. Would you like to wrap up for today or dive into another lesson?
Shall we go into another one?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You crushed those division problems.
Thank you.
I think you're ready for something new. But first, I'd love to get to know you a bit more. What kinds of things do you like besides math?
I love octopuses, the ocean.
What's your favorite thing about octopuses?
I'm going to pause it here because we can watch it forever.
So I was speaking for the Uplearning event. So that was a group of people that are responsible within large organizations to think about the next generation learning management systems. And that's also evolving, right? So from classroom trainings to e-trainings, usually these e-trainings, everybody got the same thing. This is now pivoting to new types of platforms that are completely AI generated, not only for kids like we see here, but how do you want to consume something like that?
Yep.
And there's something that I would like to show you, which is shown there as well, because Google, as always, is on point and everybody can use this because Synthesis, of course, is a paid app, but reimagine textbook for every learner. This is what Learn Your Way with Google.com. Of course, the same type of technology what they have with Notebook.LM, but really geared towards learning content. So you upload your PDF, and then you can, for instance, say, I want it in a game, like you just heard, or I want a summary, or I want quiz cards. We actually use this at home for the kids.
Yeah.
I cannot pivot back to the way that I learn something. If I needed to learn English words or French or German, I just got one book, a list of words, some kind of red paper on top of that I cannot read the answers, and just go in one way. Bowie doesn't learn that way. He just kind of has a summary and he walks around with a podcast, and I don't know how he does it, but that's the way he summarizes things. But Jess wants it in a game, so she does it in a different way. And this is the way it is now going to be for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this. And it's crazy how fast this goes, because I'll tell you, my friend Mimo, I think a year or so ago, he's also in our ambassador group. He said to me, man, I think we can use AI so that people can come up with their own bedside stories and then have their own kind of books printed and then sent to them. So they have their own, and then he wanted to expand it on merchandising, etc. And at the time, I still said to him, well, look, I think the idea is great, but I think it might still be a little bit too early for that. It's too hard. And now we're just, 12 months later and here we are. And if you know Google Photos, you can have your photos printed, right? It's integrated. You click and then you get your photo album sent home. So literally Google's already one step away from this. And I hate to say it for Mimo's business idea, because, but yeah, basically they already acted on this and they made it, and it's going to be here.
You say something very interesting. There's one downside in learning this way, and that is that both my kids are behind a screen learning. There's nothing wrong with the screen, but the incentive to click on another tab and run a video on YouTube that has nothing to do with the learning is extremely high. All the notifications that pop up. So if you would be able to print, for instance, your test and then do it offline, it keeps them a little bit more focused. So that's a downside that I have in my family here. So
Well, on that note, I would like to say that, and this is completely unrelated, but as you know, I was having a problem with social media a few weeks ago. I was starting to severely impair my mental health because I couldn't disconnect from it. I went in wanting to check on my own progress with my social media channels, followers, views, reach, which I do think there's a good case to be made for that. But social media ended up sucking me in every day, focusing on topics way too much that were not making me happy. And I installed AdBlock. And again, this is not a commercial. I'm not getting paid for this, unfortunately. But I installed AdBlock and I limited myself to only being allowed on Instagram a half an hour a day and only between 11 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So basically only an extended lunch period. So I can't watch it at night when I'm on the couch or when I go to bed. I can't look at it in the morning when I wake up. All of the moments where I was kind of reaching for it. And I showed you, I've already tried to open it 20 times in this week, which is since yesterday. And then the app says, no, you're not allowed. And it's significantly improved my mental health. And so I think that it should be a combination. You should give your kids educational access through these apps. And then at the same time, we should actively learn how to limit ourselves and our impulses.
Exactly. And be very aware and conscious of this behavior. In my last blog, I write about this specific topic, that if you're not focused, the habits take over. And like you just said, how many times have you picked up your phone, clicked on Instagram, just on autopilot, and to discover that the app is blocked by another app? That's insane. If you, it's confrontational, right? To see that, and you learn a lot from it. Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we will talk about this topic as we do with all the topics like robotics, but also learning is something very close to my heart. And AI, I think one of the biggest benefits of AI, people ask, why are you always so positive? Well, we spread knowledge and we're all having superpowers to learn more. That's one of the most beautiful things about it.
Yeah. 100%.
So, do you have appetite for one more?
I have appetite for one more, and then I do want to cover one funny quickie.
Okay, I can do a funny quickie. And this is always a difficult topic. And why is it a difficult topic? Because I think it was Carl Sagan who said, if you understand quantum mechanics, you do not... if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you do not understand quantum mechanics. But the getaway from this particular page is that Google has made another breakthrough with their quantum computing Willow chip that we had on the podcast, 6, 7, 8 months ago. But now they have a new algorithm that is actually reducing the fault errors, meaning that you can now add more qubits to it. And they have succeeded in calculations that are 13,000 times faster, as you can see here, than a classical algorithm. Of course, in very specific calculations, but these calculations are, for instance, in crypto security, for instance, in generating new materials, what we also have been talking about quite extensively. That is where the power of quantum computing comes into play. Medicines, new material constructions. So this, and it comes fast. People have said, well, quantum computing 2013, 2035. If I read this, it's going faster than we initially thought.
Yeah. I mean, I became a future historian because I worked at YOM, your open metaverse, right? They actually, by the way, they have their TGE, Tomorrow Token Generation event, which is their second one because they kind of switched over. A lot of happened there. Anyway, but when I was working there, I was already talking about this. And I remember going to the Dutch Blockchain Association. They have a yearly conference and I was on stage. And I mentioned there that quantum computing progress would become a significant problem for cryptography, which is what all cryptos are based on. And 90% of cryptos are not quantum safe, right? They're not. And they said, oh no, Aragorn, this is going to be at least 10 years. It's long. It's very far ahead. And I said, well, I don't think so, man. I think this is going to go really quickly, especially with AI coming into the mix, because that's going to speed up progress, etc. And now here we are, man. And you can see it because it's not just Google. There's been lots of progress on quantum mechanics. Let's just check. Hey, can you tell me, for the last 6 months, what are the 5 most significant breakthroughs for quantum computing, both hardware or software, whatever?
Here are 5 significant quantum computing breakthroughs from the past 6 months. 1. Microsoft's Majorana 1, a topological qubit processor. 2. IBM's Heron R2 chip with modular tunable couplers. 3. Xanadu's Aurora for scalable quantum data centers. 4. Improved qubit quality with ultra-low error rates. And 5. The development of antimatter qubits at CERN.
I'm so happy. I am
So
so happy
everybody's
you
up
shared
to
this.
speed now?
Everybody's up to speed. That wasn't techno babble at all. Okay, so in the shortest possible way, tell me as if I am a complete idiot what each means, but keep it short.
Sure thing. 1. SpinQ uses special circuits to connect qubits for better control and reliability. 2. Microsoft Majorana 1 uses topological qubits to make quantum computers more stable and less error-prone. 3. IBM Heron R2 arranges qubits to reduce interference, letting more complex operations run smoothly. 4. Quantum chips and modular setups help scale quantum computers, making them bigger and more powerful. 5. Recent improvements focus on reducing errors, improving qubit quality, and scaling up to more qubits.
So in layman's terms, what does this mean for progress on quantum computing compared to where we thought how fast it was moving, like, say, a year ago? What should we expect in the next 2 to 5 years?
Compared to a year ago, quantum computing is moving faster, especially in error correction and qubit quality. In the next 2 to 5 years, we can expect more practical applications, improved hardware, and tighter integration with AI, with some predicting useful quantum computing within that window. However, full-scale fault-tolerant systems might still take a few more years.
Thank you. Well, it's definitely to the point, I think, but I might have overtuned my custom instructions.
Yeah, let's do both a quickie. Yeah, you go first.
Oh, yeah, the quickie. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on this beautiful man. This beautiful, beautiful man.
I've seen this.
Okay.
Of AI. Do you use AI? Absolutely. Do you use ChatGPT? ChatGPT. I love ChatGPT. I love it. ChatGPT is fantastic. It's so not ChatGPT. What do you use it for?
Do you use AI? Do you use AI? Do you use ChatGPT? Do you use ChatGPT? I love it. I love it. You know, I had to laugh so hard about this because it's both amazing and it's extremely worrying. And that's we can't go too deep on this, but there was another article, and you can look this up. A US general admitted openly that he used ChatGPT for making and informing himself on making decisions. Now, these are not operational decisions in the field during combat, but there's still, this is a US Army general admitting that ChatGPT and him, he literally said, ChatGPT and me have become really close. She's advising me on all kinds of issues. So what we're seeing here is that we're seeing on a very high level, like Boris Johnson, same thing, former prime minister. These are very influential, authoritative people, right, that are using AI to inform their work. And the first question that comes to mind for me is, are they using the paid version or the free version? Because they have no idea. Right. So on the one hand, this technology is great potential, but these people are using it and they're using it for stuff and they don't even know how to use it. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, now we also assume that they do not know anything, right? That video you just showed of Boris, I like his enthusiasm. Maybe he was just referring to what everybody does. The first time you see ChatGPT, you do something that you're amazed by the quality of the things that come back at you, the depth of what you can do. That doesn't say he actually is using that to make political decisions. The other way around, Aragorn. What if he would not use AI at all to try to make sense of the world, right? That is, yeah, there has to be some kind of balance. You have to be common sense.
This is true, but listen to the way he talks about it. He says, ChatGPT, I quite frankly,
it looks funny. Yeah, that has nothing to do with.
No, okay, that's true. No, but I mean, like he's undividedly positive. He didn't say, "Well, look, I'm using it, but it's good for this, but not for that." There was no nuance there. And the thing is that I think that with these people, especially this type of people, like it could have been Trump as well. There was a South Park episode, and I highly recommend everybody to watch it, where Cartman's father is using ChatGPT, and basically he says like, I want to start a company, and it's a ridiculous idea, and anybody who hears it thinks like this is the stupidest idea ever. And then ChatGPT goes like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, let me run some basic business ideas for that. And he gets really, because he believes that, I'm onto something. This is great. And then his wife is like, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, I'm building a new business. And she's, why? And he's like, no, I got a great advisor who's telling me it's a great idea. And this is the thing. This is what I'm worried about. I'm not worried. I believe in AI, but I'm worried that these people who are so sensitive to having their ego boosted. They're so sensitive to sycophancy, and let's face it, Boris Johnson is 100% one of those people.
Right. So this resonates more with me, right? So the sycophancy from AIs towards people like that, that's a danger zone completely. Yeah.
It is a danger zone because they come into their own personal echo chamber where everything they say is amazing, and no matter and I can see that go off the rails.
Yeah. All right, man. It was a pleasure. My quickie is just referring once more to the meetup of the 11th of December in Amsterdam, and it's shaping up nicely. If we look, and we're not going to say who, but there are going to be some very interesting people who have already agreed to help people get some insight in how to do video podcasting, how to do vibe coding. There will be some venture capitalists. There will be very interesting people. Ticket sales are going quite rapidly, so grab yours. Link is here somewhere in the video, anywhere. It's going to be fun, and I see some fingers pointing about some additional...
Yeah, no, we're gonna add the Luma link here for the event. You gotta go and sign up. We've already got 40 tickets sold. Yeah, so we got 100 places. We still have a little over a month to go. But that again, we'll still have more than a month to go. We already sold 40 tickets. So if you want to be there, make sure that you sign up. Don't wait. Ask your wife, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter, anybody who wants to come because it's gonna be amazing. Yeah, and don't forget, we need a Suno theme song. Right? We have a challenge running for that. And so we didn't get nobody sent anything in yet, so you have a real chance of winning this. So that's it for now. Thank you for being here with us. Patrick,
what do we say in the Netherlands? See you later.
See you later.
Bridging the gap of exponential growth. Patrick and Aragorn share the truth. Join our community, let's innovate. With Innovation Network, create a brighter face.